All right, hello everybody. You are listening to the Minding Mind podcast, where we live life with ease, connection, and permission to just be. I'm your host, Evelyn LeVasseur, and welcome back to another episode. Today I am chatting with Michelle Purta, and she is a marriage coach. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about her. Michelle is a married mom of three. She's a marriage coach and also the host of the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. After struggling in her romantic relationships early on, she now helps couples with building a strong foundation so they can not only have their marriage survive parenthood, because we know parenthood will test your marriage and yourself as an individual, but she also helps them thrive. Happy marriages aren't only for the lucky ones, and I love that so much. It's also for you once you learn what it actually takes. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Same. I'm excited to talk about this because, actually, I was at a conference this weekend and I was speaking on the role of relationship with self and how that impacts your relationship with other people. And I felt sad almost a little bit listening to some of the participants' struggles because so many of them mirrored the same story. My husband doesn't communicate with me. He just wants me to take care of the house. He just wants to know what's done for him. He doesn't see me. He doesn't respect me. He doesn't value me. And now I see the same in my kids. It was a lot of that repetitive and obviously zero judgment ever. I just I felt sad, but also grateful to be in the line of work to help them see it does not have to be that way. There are things that you can control about yourself that impact the people around you. You're not going to be changing other people, like they're not puppets, they are people, but you have some power, some agency over how your life is showing up for you every day. So again, I did feel like I felt a little sad to see like it's just such a prevalent story, but also it doesn't have to be. So I would love to start there. And I love just the statement that you make that like healthy marriages and healthy love is not just for people who are lucky. Can you start there and tell us, like, what does that even mean? And yeah, right. What do you mean?
I know. I used to be one of those, like, yeah, right, because I felt like I was an unlucky one because I kept running into the same issues in my romantic relationships. I'm like, what gives, right? Like, I don't understand why I can't just have that, like, on screen type of love where everything's cutesy and they do everything like for you and they're really trying to win you over and life is just easy breezy. And I just didn't understand why I wasn't experiencing that compared to what I saw other people have. And what I mean by it isn't just for the lucky is coming off the heels of recognizing after several, I'll quote this, failed relationships and noticing that what went wrong in those relationships was actually a pattern that I wasn't aware that I was participating in. So, despite dating different people, right? I was like a serial monogamist, okay? Despite dating several people, different, unique individuals, none of them are the same in any way. I still had the same kind of relationship, right? Where I would feel like I wasn't getting enough from them. No one knew how to love me the way I wanted to be loved. When we had disagreements, they would quickly escalate into arguments. It would spiral and it would get toxic. And at the end of it, I would never feel it was resolved. I would never feel understood. I would never feel supported enough. And because I wanted to go back to being normal, I would just be like, well, like this, I mean, this is a morbid phrase, but like the horse has been beaten enough, right? Like you can't beat a dead horse. So it's like, okay, well, let's just sweep it under the rug, carry on. And then it happens again, and then it happens again, and then it happens again because we're not doing anything different.
Mhm.
So Hit fast forward several relationships. I recognized that I was the common denominator in all those relationships. So if I'm the common denominator, that means that I'm bringing something into the relationship that's causing this type of dynamic that I keep experiencing over and over and over again. And that was a really tough realization to have, to be like, oh shit, it's me. I'm the problem. Yes and no. I wasn't the only problem, but I was part of the problem. And so I had to do a lot of work on myself. And now on the other end of it, where I'm happily married to my best friend, right? We're celebrating 11 years. We already did celebrate 11 years this year of being married. We have 3 kids, one which we co-parent with our co-parents, who we are best friends with, by the way, which was not always the case. And now I know what I feel like should be widely known by everyone is that in order to have a healthy relationship, whether you're dating or married, all comes down to having essential skills, foundational skills that we are not taught unless you go seek it out yourself. You have a healthy example at home, or not even at home, but just like someone that has a heavy impact on your life, like they're modeling it to you. And that's it. We're not taught this at school, how to have healthy conflict. We're not taught how to get to know ourselves unless you go study psychology, right? And even then, I have a degree in psychology, okay? And I still didn't know this until years after graduating, okay? And so what I mean by happy relationships, happy marriages aren't just for the lucky is that I want to squash that myth that unless you're the chosen one to have this like flawless, perfect life, that you can't have that. No, healthy, happy marriages are for people who work for it.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm not trying to discount anything that you've done. I'm just saying that maybe the work that you've done, if you're not in a happy, healthy marriage today, is that the work that you're doing hasn't been the right kind of work. So let's make sure that you're learning the right things, you're practicing the right things. And that's what many of my clients come to me with. We've tried our best. And I believe you. I believe you have put your heart, soul, blood into making this work. And now I'm going to teach you what actually works,
Mhm.
right? So that's what I believe. I think that if you have the right foundation, you can have your happily ever after. With that said, that doesn't mean that the partner you're with today is your happily ever after.
Mhm.
So I'm a marriage coach, but I'm actually not pro marriage. Let me explain. I believe that who you're with, right, the person you choose, is heavily dependent on who you were at that time. So if at that time you were not someone with a good sense of self,
Mhm.
strong self worth, and boundaries, then who you're with today, if they're also not about growth and reflecting and all those things, maybe they like to blame, maybe they don't take accountability, maybe they whatever, right? Then maybe they're not compatible with who you are and what you want. Okay? Of course, I'm not saying that if that's who they were from the beginning, that they're locked into being that person. Same for you. But I have worked with couples who have turned things around, like did a 180 and became more in love as a result of our work together and the work that they did on their own. And then I've also had couples who realize we are not compatible. But the difference is they now have the skills to find those who are, and they have the skills to then have better relationships going forward, and they can be healthier co-parents together because they have the skills to communicate.
I
That's a
have
very long-winded answer, but I hope I answered you.
so much came up for me in the things that you were saying. I'm almost going to make myself a note here, but The very first thing that popped up for me is that I feel like there's a misconception that a happy marriage is happy all the time. And
No.
right, it's not even possible to think that way. When you look at yourself as an individual, even you aren't happy all the time. And
Mm-mm.
that's normal. It's normal to have ups and downs. It's normal to have different emotions at different times. And it's not worth judging that. Like, it's silly to even think that you should place judgment on yourself for not being happy all the time or that your marriage is not happy all the time. That's the first part. But the second part is that I keep thinking is that I I believe so many women, women especially, some men believe that love is something that you feel and it should just guide the whole marriage, as if that foundation is the only thing that you need to sustain the marriage. But I really think like love is a feeling, yes, but I also think love is an action, and love is a choice, and love is consistency, and love is how do I show up for my partner? How do I show up for me? How do I expect him to love me if I don't show him how I love myself, right? So I feel like that all is intertwined in there. I kind of want to go back a little bit to that beginning part where you talked about being the girl who recognized that you were the common denominator. What did you recognize about yourself? How were you perpetuating these same outcomes over and over again? What did you find?
Yeah, I found that I was very passive aggressive. And
Mm,
I never knew how I felt or what I felt or why I felt that way. So I was not doing the processing that was necessary for us to set our conversation up for success. I essentially felt triggered. I'd bring it to my partner because I want it fixed and I want it fixed now. And I wanted us to be good, and I didn't take any accountability. I didn't share how I contributed to where we ended up, how it blew up. I was very much like just full of blame. Well, I was fine before you did this or what you didn't do and I expected you to do. And now you have to make this right because it's your fault. And I recognize that that's not effective. It's also not very mature. And it doesn't lead to growth because then it means that my partner's always in the wrong, right? And unless you grow up witnessing people taking accountability for their feelings and their triggers, what else would you do, right? And so that's what I did. I just did what I saw. I did what I saw. And it always ended the same, where there would be a lot of fighting, no growth. I felt like we just kept hitting this ceiling. And so making that realization is what helped me turn the page, right? To end that chapter of how I approach relationships. And there's so much empowerment to learning about taking accountability. When you don't grow up with that, it's like, oh, well, if it's your bad, if you're making the mistake, then there's something wrong with you. No. I mean, if there's something wrong with me, it's just that I'm human, just like everybody else. But there's nothing inherently wrong with me. I'm just doing what I have seen, and it has no bearing on who I am. Because who I am just doing my best with what I have and what I know at the time. But now I know, oh, when I take accountability for my actions, that leads to more depth, more intimacy, more connection, more growth in the relationship. And once I realized that, I'm like, okay, open the floodgates. I'm all for reflecting on what I have done, what I feel, what I need, what I want, and bring that so that we can have a productive conversation instead of me just pointing the finger and making them feel as bad as I do, thinking that that's going to be the fix.
yeah. I can hear people saying to you right now, like, what do you mean taking accountability? I already do everything. I already show up in X, Y, and Z ways. I already am the one
Mhm.
who has to bring up the conversation, who has to start the communication, who has to find out how to fix it afterward, who has to smooth things over after the argument. I'm saying that because I can hear people saying, what are you talking about? I already do a lot. So I think there is maybe a little bit of a disconnect between taking accountability for you and blaming yourself.
Hmm.
And then the other part, so that's the first part I would love for you to tackle. And then what do you say to the woman who says, I want to learn how to take accountability?
Hmm.
The heck does that even have to do with my marriage? What does that have to do
Yes.
with? There's a second person in this. How does
Hmm.
taking accountability for myself even impact him?
Yes. Yes. I love this. And I have felt all those things. And I still have some of those thoughts at times. The thing is that I know how to honor them and let them have their voice and move past that. So let me back up. I understand feeling that resentment of like, why do I have to do this all the time? Why does it fall on me for these things to change? I've been asking for this for so long. I've had enough, right? In the famous words of Ali Wong, if you're a fan of her comedy, I have suffered enough. Like I get it. I get it. And you can hold on to that for all you got, or you can choose to let go of that and think, what do I want from this? Okay? So just to make sure that that lands, you can hold on to your pride and say, well, I've done enough already. I'm not doing any more. And play that out in your head. How will that play out? Will that change anything? Will that support your marriage in any way? Will that help you feel better? Maybe temporarily. Will that move your marriage forward? Will that create the marriage that you want? You know the answer to that. Or you can say, okay, I hear you. I hear that we feel resentful because we've put in a lot of work already. It doesn't seem like he's doing much of anything at all for this. And I'm hesitant to do this because I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm scared, right? I'm scared that if I do this and nothing changes, I'll be faced with a decision to make, or I'll be facing the facts that I don't like. And I get that too. I get that, wanting to keep the relationship as it is because the alternative seems worse. Okay? Because it's like the unknown, right? Like most times you will choose what's known and uncomfortable and dissatisfying compared to the unknown because you're like, I don't know, that's scary. I'm not sure what's going to pan out there. It could be better, it could be worse. I don't know, but I don't like it. Okay? But on the other side of things, there's the potential for something to change. And so you have to ask yourself, am I willing to put my pride on the line for something better? Am I willing to give my marriage a shot at working through this and growing and changing, evolving by setting my sword down, putting my walls down? Am I willing to do that? And a question I want you to ask yourself is the marriage that I want, the one that I viewed and envisioned when we said I do, what would a person that has that marriage do in this situation? Okay? That is a very sobering question. It's a very difficult one because a lot of times putting on our big girl pants isn't what we want to do at the time. We want to be spiteful. We want to be petty because what the hell? But at the end of the day, what's going to get you closer to what you desire? Would you rather hold on to your pride and just set off your husband to do whatever he's going to do, whether he gets defensive or also withdraws or fights with you more, whatever it is that he's going to do as a result of your behavior, because you create a ripple effect with everything that you do, and so does he? Or would you be like, okay, we feel like being petty. I get that. But That's not going to get us the marriage that we want. What will? Being honest with yourself will, right? Being fully honest about the part that you played in the situation that you have ended up in. So let's take an example. Let's say you are very resentful of your husband because he just has stopped trying with you. It's like you're living life in parallel. Life is just taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, working, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. You don't even feel like lovers anymore. You don't even feel like best friends anymore. You're just co-parenting roommates. You're in the business of taking care of children and in the business of paying the bills and keeping up your life and this like image of who you are as a family. But deep down, you don't feel connected. And when you do talk, it's like it feels empty, right? You're just talking about logistics, or if you have a disagreement, it doesn't go well and just doesn't get anywhere. It doesn't feel like you guys are deepening the relationship. It's like you've hit that ceiling. It's like, is this what life is really going to be like for the next several decades? Like it feels sad, maybe even suffocating, right? And hopeless. A lot of clients who come to me feel like we are losing hope and we don't want to lose that hope. And I don't want that for you. I don't even want that for myself, right? But what led to that was back to what Evelyn said, love being an action. Love is a verb. Love is a verb. And at the core of it is for you to love your spouse, you need to love yourself. Because if you yourself don't even know what it takes for you to be happy as a person, or what you need, what brings you joy, what brings you fulfillment, what generates feelings of passion and fulfillment, satisfaction, all of those like things that we are seeking to feel in life, then you are only going to bring a percentage of yourself into the relationship. We didn't come with a manual, unfortunately, and neither did our spouses. But I believe that our journey through life is to write our own manual, is to uncover, do investigative work to uncover what does bring me joy? What am I about? Who am I if you strip away the title of mom and wife and woman? What makes me me? Different than my friend, my mom, my sister, my brother, my husband, my children. What makes me me? And when we develop a positive relationship with ourselves, like skeletons and all, we bring a different version of ourselves into the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We bring depth. We bring vulnerability. We bring fulfillment and just like our full self acceptance, compassion, patience, understanding, desire, right? Until we are ready to dive deep into who we are, your marriage can only go so deep.
Mm-hmm.
And it will stay shallow unless you do that work. And yes, culturally, historically, women have been the heart of the family. We do the emotional work. I get that. And I'm not meaning to use this as an excuse, but just as a source of understanding. Our baseline for that starts at a much younger age than it did for boys. And I'm hoping that we as moms, I have boys, I'm hoping that we are changing the tides with this by also doing this with our kids, making it safe to feel your emotions, making it safe to feel their emotions, talking about it and all that. But our husbands likely did not have that growing up. They were told to go do things, achieve things, suck it up, be a man, have like grow a pair, right? Stop being a pea. Those are not things that are conducive to it feeling safe to express your emotions, to inquire about them. And so naturally, that has been something that is not been touched. It doesn't feel okay to do that. And that doesn't mean that that's okay. That doesn't mean that you get to just be like, oh, well, I'll just keep doing it then. No, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you stay on your side of the street and make sure your side of the street is clean and you're showing up as the wife that has the marriage that you want, you will create a different path for your marriage where you will create this almost like platform, a step where you invite your husband, will you please take this step with me? Will you rise to the occasion? Because what we do, let's say we work on ourselves and we start to show up differently in conflict, we start to show up differently in connection, right? They will be dealing with a different version of you, which means they will be dealing with a different set of choices that they can make for themselves. They can choose to meet you, they can choose to stay where they are, they can choose to not do anything at all and maybe decide to leave. But at least then, you will know that you gave it everything you have to have the marriage that you desire, and it becomes their choice.
Mhm.
All we can do is influence, right? But if you're going to hold on to your pride, you won't even have that as an option.
Mhm.
You will just stay stuck where you are, and things will continue to die off. So,
I feel like I think so much of the things that keep us from taking action, from making any changes, is because we are so fearful of the unknown that
mhm,
we would rather control ourselves right now, stuff down the emotions, ignore the pain, ignore the frustration, not even bring up the conversations that could potentially help us with being more vulnerable with each other, helping us get deeper connection. Like we try to avoid all of that because our fear is that it could go horribly wrong, things blow up, and we end up not together. Like I
mhm,
see that so often from women where it's like, how about if this is the worst thing ever and life blows up. And it's like, listen, that is possible.
mhm,
That is possible. But also, if you can let those thoughts come into your mind and you can let yourself think, oh my gosh, this could be terrible, then you can also practice saying, oh my gosh, this could be amazing. Oh my gosh, we could be 10 steps further along if I take this step, we could be closer. We could be more comfortable. We could be having the types of conversations that I want to have. We could be having the connection that I want and the affection that I desire. Like all of that is possible, just like ending the marriage is possible or ending the relationship, whatever it is. I just think that for so many of us, we've been taught that the ultimate goal in life was to be chosen by someone else.
mm,
Therefore, if they chose us, we can't rock the boat because what if they don't keep choosing us? And I feel like that kind of breaks my heart in thinking. And I know that that's partly how I was raised as well. Be who you need to be to attract the right partner so that you will have provision and safety for the rest of your life,
mhm,
right? And then there's that fear all the time like but what if it ends, but what if it ends, but what if it ends. And it was a long time into my marriage before I could even adapt to thinking of, but what if it's great, but what if it can be even better, right? So can you talk a little bit about that fear of having to work having to work through the thought of what if he doesn't choose me?
mm. So that is the biggest scam of your life. I'm just going to put that out there. Okay? Because who we all need to be chosen by is ourselves. Okay? Ourselves. Now, if you have not heard that before, welcome. You will never be the same.
Mm.
Okay? And how do you choose yourself? by living authentically. What does that mean? Being super honest with yourself. What are you a yes for? What are you a no for? What lights you up? What pisses you off? Right? You don't need to be a good girl. Like, seriously, F that. You can still be respectful and kind, but you can also have feelings. You can have opinions. You can have strategic, tactful ways of delivering this information. You don't have to come off as a B, okay? But you get to have your opinions and preferences. You are your own person. Now, I work with parents, so I'm going to speak to the parents. How much would it kill you if your daughter or son thought that they had to play a role in order for them to be loved? And they had to play this role for the rest of their life, just feeling unhappy, but they can't show it to anyone. But in order for them to have what they want, they have to put on this mask and they can't ever take it off. That's exhausting. That's what creates illness. That's what I believe. And the more honest you are with yourself, the deeper the love that you can feel, the deeper the love that you can be given. Why? Because can you imagine having a relationship where you are accepted for who you are, quirks and all, mistakes and all, flaws and all, just full acceptance? But how can someone come to love you if you don't show that? It's almost like you're catfishing your husband or partner because you were this one version and now you're like, actually, that wasn't me. I just did that to bait you so that you would marry me. That's not fair, right? Of course, that's different if you're like, okay, well, now I'm discovering who I am. Cool, have that conversation with him. You know what? I'm actually realizing that I don't like eggs. Do you know how freeing that is to say that? I mean, that's not true for me. I love eggs. But like, if that's you, that's very freeing to be honest with yourself and to be honest with the people around you. Because really, who gives a shit if you don't like eggs? Right? And that could be expanded to most things in your life, right? Like, people who truly love you don't care. They will feel honored to know these truths about you that you haven't shared with anyone.
Michelle, do you think that women in these roles that are carrying these feelings are even aware that they're wearing a mask?
Mm. I think there's a feeling inside them that doesn't sit right with them, but they haven't given themselves the permission or the space to even explore that.
Mhm.
So if that's you and you see people who are really happy and you either experience jealousy or you're triggered by it, you're like, the nerve that they do that. There's something in there that you need to explore.
Mhm.
Because people who are feeling free to be themselves, which I was not always that, okay? You're going to feel those feelings. You're going to feel jealous of someone else that has what you want because you are not giving yourself the permission to be that way out loud. Or you're going to feel triggered and upset and just appalled because, again, you are not giving that to yourself. So if you're feeling those things, it's time to think about that. What about that person living their life fully upsets me? Because when you get to the point where you're okay with yourself, you accept yourself, you love yourself unconditionally. When you see other people happy, you're like their biggest cheerleader. You admire what they're doing because they're choosing to live aligned, right? But when you're not, it's like that feels wrong. You shouldn't do that. Well, what about it feels wrong? And what you'll come to find is that the wrong thing is that you're saying no to yourself too much, right? From setting boundaries, even with your kids. with your husband, with your friends, right? If you're like that yes woman, where you feel like you have to be something in order to feel loved, right? Where you're volunteering for all of the things, but at the end of the day, you're feeling so wrecked, so tired, so like drained instead of full. That's a really big sign that your life needs to be reassessed, that your decisions are not in complete alignment with what you desire.
That's so good. I love that you even brought up just that one statement you made where if you say to yourself, I don't even like eggs, tell him, right?
Hmm.
Because I think so much of the fear can be alleviated if you share the journey as you're going through it. And I feel like that's a lot of what I did with my husband. And listen, I'm still 20 years into this marriage, still learning different ways of communicating, learning how to create space in a way that feels safe for him to go deeper in his thoughts, and to share them with me. I had to really look at my behaviors and say, like, God, I really want deeper conversation. I really want deeper connection. And then the next question had to be, am I creating space for that? How am I showing up in these conversations that make him shut down, right? So it was a lot of that self-reflection and asking myself better questions, but also then sharing with him out loud my thoughts and the ways that I was changing and the things that I was noticing about myself. Because as time progressed and as I came to really be awakened to a lot of the thoughts and feelings I had that I wasn't even known of, he got like a totally different blueprint on how to love me too. Like me just sharing, these are the things I'm learning about myself. These are the things I'm figuring out. These are the things I'm uncovering. These are the things I like. These are the things I don't like. I literally gave him a blueprint on how to connect with me differently. And
Hmm.
because he does love me, he took those cues and said, let me start implementing more of these things in our relationship too. Like, Evelyn somehow, some way has become a plant lady. Like, so
Me too.
he will like send me pictures of plants or send me memes or whatever, or like make jokes at me when I talk to the girls in the morning, the plants, I call them the girls. Just connecting differently in the things that I've shared. So I don't even know where I was going with that, but
No,
just
I'm following you. Like, even feedback is really powerful to share.
yeah,
Feedback is the most underrated kind of conversation you can have with your spouse or partner if you're not married. And I don't just mean like you did that in a horrible way. You need to get better. No, 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 no. It could be even like, hey, when you open my door for me, that made me feel so loved and cared for. Like I am your precious cargo, and you would do anything to help me out and improve my experience of life. And I just want to let you know that I really appreciate that. What do you think he's going to do going forward? He's going to keep doing that because it's like, yes, I figured out another hack.
yeah. I think even asking him different questions. I
Yes.
remember saying to my husband one time, are there things that I used to do that made
Hmm.
you feel loved that I don't do anymore?
Yes.
In my head, I was like, no way in hell is he going to say anything negative because there's no way. Like, but hello, I know how to love this man. And he said two of the simplest things. He said, when you used to sit on the couch, you would automatically put your hand on my leg. And now
Mm,
sometimes you just sit next to me, which to me, I didn't even notice it. But it was like for him, that was a touch point of connection. As
yes.
soon as I sat down, I put my hand on his lap and I had stopped doing that. And then the other part was when I used to work in the school system, I used to be a teacher. He said, when you used to pack your lunch, you would pack mine too. And I loved like seeing a lunch packed for me in the morning. It just made me think that you were thinking of me in that moment.
Yes.
And again, like I stopped working out of the home. I didn't think of it in a way of caring for him differently. It was just that I didn't have to pack my lunch anymore, so I didn't pack his.
Yeah.
I didn't realize for him that was a point of I feel cared for.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that I was even able to ask that question and then receive what he said to me without being offended.
Yes. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the back to that, like, are you being the wife that has the marriage that you want? That's the kind of question that generates that kind of conversation. And you have to be ready for it, right? It could come back with a really difficult answer that you weren't ready to hear. And we have to be prepared for that, whatever that answer is. Because in order for you to deepen your relationship, you have to have that level of safety that you create and nurture. And that does come with how you react to things. So if he's like, you know, I really wish that we had sex more often, which is probably a very common answer, right? Especially as we approach menopause, like I'm entering my perimenopausal stage and I'm noticing a lot of body changes in me. Like my hormones are changing, I just have different symptoms, my emotions are everywhere, whatever. And we have to create that safe space where we're like not quickly like, ugh, like disgusted, or you come back like, well, if you took me on more dates, then probably like you'd probably get lucky more often. That's not a safe response
Mhm.
because he's being honest with you. And if you want more of that honesty, if you want more of that like internal view of what's going on inside of him, then you have to just bite your tongue and say, okay, how often would that feel like we're connected? How often do you need to have sex in order for you to feel connected to me? Like, actually go there. Or if he has this crazy wild idea of something to do, don't just pop his bubble. Hear him out.
Talk to the woman who can handle hearing, right? I want to have more sex,
Mm-hmm.
but also feels emotionally disconnected.
Yeah.
How does she appropriately respond? Because you're saying, yes, hear him out.
Yes.
He's telling you the truth. This is something that he wants. But if your
Yes.
immediate instinct is, but you don't even act like you like me,
Mm-hmm.
act like you want to know anything about me.
Yes.
How does she respond to that without like jumping down his throat?
I love this. So this was me years ago, and I'm happy to report our sex life is very alive and well. And so for me, it was about hearing him out and not just being like, of course you would say that. Is there anything else? Right? Is there anything that's easier for me to deliver on? That's really what it was, right? Is there anything easier for me to deliver on? But if that's his honest answer, then I'm going to accept it for what it is and let him share until he feels like he has shared enough. And then I can take that and process, how do I feel about this? What are my reservations? What's blocking me from wanting to meet him there? What's blocking me from wanting to physically connect with him as often as he wants to connect with me? Because this man's telling me he wants to feel more connected with me. And this is the avenue that he wants to feel more connected in. That's not a bad thing. So, what's the baggage that I'm holding on to, right? So, that's where you do the reflective work. What's stopping me from wanting to have sex with him this often? What's getting in the way? What am I needing to set me up to want it that often, right? Because there are people out there having sex multiple times a day, by the way. Parents. There's also parents who have sex every single day. So, what's getting in the way of me wanting to do that? Do I know what those blocks are? For me, I was burnt out. So at the end of the night, I just want to go to sleep. I want to be alone. I don't want anyone needing anything from me. And so I had to share with him once I process, I would love to get to that point, and I'm not there yet. And what I'm learning about myself is that when I'm go, go, go all day long, nighttime is my time to be by myself and relax. Because if I don't have that time, I become this like raging bitch to everybody in our family. And I am not going to be that.
And then sex feels like a chore.
And it does, yeah. And that's the last thing I want to do is when I'm stressed out, is to feel like I have to do another thing for another person. And so he said, okay, well, how do we help you? How do we help you with this? And now we have this joke where we trade sex for chores, but it works. If you feel disconnected with me, okay, well, you know what would really help me unwind earlier and be ready to have sex at night? If you put them to bed. So while you're doing that, I'm getting ready and I have more time to myself and I am mentally and physically ready to connect with you later on,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Or it's like, well, I also like to spend time with you doing other things, like watching shows together, going on dates, or talking. And, I noticed that when I'm able to just like vent first for however many minutes, that once I empty my head, I'm physically ready. He's like, okay. I'm like, or if you like give me a massage sometimes and not having it always lead to you wanting it. I want like no agenda. So then he learned, oh, foreplay starts way earlier in the day with loving text or thinking of me and doing things for me to lighten my load, and all that plays into it. So the more we get to know ourselves, again, back to loving ourselves, right? Getting to know yourself is the act of loving yourself, by the way. It's developing a relationship with yourself. The more I do that and the more I share it with him, right? Handing over the manual, teaching him, hey, here is the hack to me, the more it can start to feel like, oh, I am available for this.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, the more sex you have, the more you want it,
Yeah,
right?
I feel like the recurring theme throughout this whole conversation has been about being honest with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what it is you actually want, right? Figuring out what makes you feel good. But I think,
Physically, too.
yes, physically too, for sure. But I think one of the blockages that a lot of women have is that we think we're going to say those things and they're going to fall on deaf ears. We think that he doesn't care what we're thinking or feeling. He just wants the thing from us. But
Mm-hmm.
when you can let your guard down a little bit and offer him the compassion that you want, right? You'll see that this really is most times, and I'm talking about a physically safe care,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're not talking about any other situations where you need intervention, right? You need somebody to intervene, help you out, get you out. Like that's not what we're talking about. This is a safe, loving human being. You have to open yourself up to the idea that he wants to know what makes you feel good. He wants to lighten your load. He wants to know what he can do. And also remember that from the time that we were literally brought into this world. We have been trained to take care of other people. We have been trained to consider everyone. Men weren't trained that way. So even the good man in your life who wants to learn doesn't have that foundation. So totally he's learning an entirely new way of thinking. He's learning an entirely new way of existing. He's learning an entirely new way of what it means to take care of someone that is not just about providing, right? So there is an element to this of, yes, being honest with yourself, but also being open to the fact that he wants for things to be better for you too.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it also improves his life. Just like how we experience joy by serving others, he can also experience that same joy by serving you. But we have to allow it, we have to be ready to receive it, and we have to share how we want to be served.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
all of that starts with you getting to know you, right? Like, if you're one of those people who are like, sex is a chore, I don't even enjoy it, it's time for you to learn how to enjoy it and teach him what you enjoy. Because once that's out of the way, you're going to want to engage in that more often. And he's going to notice, like, oh, this is different. She's not just like, whatever.
And be able to,
There.
what do you need? Like you said before, when you said that, what is blocking you? What is making you not want
Hmm.
sex with your spouse? What is making you not want to be touched? Like you have to address those things that are making
Yes.
you not want to be touched. I do think that if you're someone who doesn't enjoy sex at all, I feel like that's completely different. Like, is it that you don't want to be touched? I feel like that if you're someone who enjoys sex but just doesn't want to be touched because you feel overloaded, that's a different conversation
Yes.
than someone who doesn't want to be touched.
Correct.
So, yeah, I feel like there's that distinction of what is it that you even like? What is it that you even want?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah. I would say go follow a sex coach
Yeah. Yeah.
and get cracking because that's a very big piece of your relationship, or it can be. That can deepen your relationship a lot because I'm not going to get into this like super deep, but typically for most women, we prefer emotional intimacy, and we almost need that. That's like the key to unlock our physical desires.
Mhm.
Okay? Men are the opposite. They need to feel physically connected before they feel safe to emotionally connect with us. So we both have to do work in order for it to come together.
Yeah. I love that so much. Michelle, I love this conversation because I think that so many of us are struggling in relationship with others, relationship with ourselves, but so much of the baggage is in our heads because we never
Hmm.
speak it out loud. We just live life on autopilot every single day, not having the actual conversations with anyone else or ourselves that is the very key to unlocking the next level of the thing that we want, right? We just live in our heads all day, every day, and wonder why nothing changes. I love this so much. So, Michelle, if anybody were looking to follow you, work with you, where can they find you? How can they work with you?
Yes. So I am mostly on my podcast and Instagram. So you can find me at the Marriage and Motherhood podcast or Michelle Purta Coaching on Instagram. And if you want to work with me, I would start with the podcast. That's a great way to get to know my style and learn from me to see if I am the one that you want to partner with to support you in your marriage goals. And I'd love to get to know you.
Beautiful. Michelle, before I can let you go, the question of the hour is coming through. And, I ask at the end of every show in this community, we're very focused on being instinctive and intuitive and really trusting alignment, alignment in all things in our lives. So, whatever doesn't align with our soul, with our instinct, with our intuition, we don't want it. That's minding mine. How do you think that learning to mind yours, learning to live life your way, impacts the legacy that you're going to leave?
In all ways. Like it impacts it in all ways. My kids, anyone that comes into contact with me, if I'm not living my fullest, like me at my core, that will negatively impact my entire community.
Mhm.
But if I am living my fullest, just being really authentic to myself, that grants others permission to do the same. It gives other people my best self, My kids get the best version of me as a mom. My husband gets the best version of me as a wife. I get me as the best version of myself. My friends, like it just, the ripple effect is endless. And you know what is the best part is that it is so freeing. It's like taking a heavy weight off of you. It makes life feel so much easier. I'm not saying easy, but it makes it feel easier because you just care more about the life that you're building rather than the life that other people expect you to build.
That's it. That's it
So
right
if
there.
I'm gonna, yeah, if I'm gonna leave you with anything, choose, if you had to disappoint anyone, choose to disappoint other people, not yourself. Because you got to live with that.
Yeah. I love that so much. If you have to choose to disappoint anybody, don't let it be yourself. I love
Hmm.
that. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone, thank you for joining both of us for this conversation. And really, I just want to drive home the point that if your goal is to have improvement in your marriage, improvement in your communication, improvement in your connection, it just in your daily lives and feeling taken care of and having better sex and having more sex, it literally has to start with being honest with yourself first and being able to speak the things that you discover out loud and give your partner the benefit of the doubt. Keep in mind that this person loves you and wants you to be happy too, and they want to be a part of that. They're not here, and again, we're talking about healthy minded people, right? They're not here to just try to hold you down and make you uncomfortable. They want what's best too. We just all didn't naturally have the skills to get there. So leave yourselves open to that. Thank you, everyone. Again, if this episode resonated with you, make sure to comment, rate, and review the podcast. You know that your feedback helps me grow. And know that I am going to be linking all of Michelle's information in the podcast description. So if you want to reach out, Instagram through the podcast, you'll know where to find her. Until next time, I want you to go live your life on your terms and mind your business. We'll catch you in the next episode.